You've probably killed a rosemary plant. Maybe 2. Maybe 7. And every time you blamed yourself. The wrong pot, not enough sun, too much water. Here's the thing. It wasn't you. I mean that. My grandmother used to say, Rosemary loves a hard life, not a spa day. That $15 premium mix you bought, it's not a treat, it's a root killer. Today, I'm showing you the lazy gardener's way to keep one $3 plant alive for 3 years. Safe for your pets, easy on your wallet. Grab a pen, let's get to work. But first, why does cheap, rough backyard dirt keep rosemary alive longer than a $15 premium mix? The answer will change how you think about every herb you've ever grown. Here's the plan. First, we'll see why that fancy soil is actually a swamp for your roots. Then I'll take you to the rocky hills where rosemary was born. And at minute 10:50, we'll make something together that protects your plants for a full year. Stick around for that one. Quick question before we dive in. How many rosemary plants have you accidentally retired? Drop your number in the comments. No judgment here, we've all been there. I'm not the only one. Marcus from Oregon wrote to me last spring. 6 plants lost in a single season. He said, I thought I just didn't have a green thumb. Marcus, you do. The soil didn't. I bought 7 rosemary plants in 2 years. 6 of them died. The 7th, I planted it in cheap, rough soil from the back corner of my yard. Not a premium mix, not a fancy pot. That plant is still thriving today. And I finally had to ask, why? By the way, if grandmother approved, science-backed gardening is your thing, hit subscribe. I share one of these every week. Back to the rosemary. Here's what's happening inside that premium herb mix. Sphagnum peat, the main ingredient in most commercial mixes, holds roughly 20 times its dry weight in water. When you water your rosemary, the soil stays wet for days, sometimes a full week. Think of it like this. Your rosemary is trying to take a deep breath, but it's stuck at the bottom of a swimming pool. Soil scientists call this a perched water table. In simple terms, the top of the soil looks dry, but the bottom is a swamp. In a 6-inch pot, the bottom 3 to 4 inches stay completely waterlogged, even when the top feels dry to your finger. And rosemary roots grow down, straight into that swamp. Your roots aren't drinking, they're suffocating. Stay with me here. This is the part that changes everything. When soil is fully saturated, oxygen diffusion drops by roughly 10,000 times. The roots can't breathe. They switch to fermentation, like a plant holding its breath until it can't anymore. The roots die first. Then the water molds move in. That's the root rot you find when you pull a dead rosemary out of the pot. Here's the cruel part. When the roots start to drown, the leaves wilt, exactly like they do when the plant is thirsty. So you add more water, and the cycle gets faster. That's why rosemary seems to die suddenly, even when you've been watering it regularly. Rosemary roots don't die from thirst. They die because they can't breathe. Now, if premium mix is the problem, what does rosemary actually need? The answer goes back 2,000 years, to the hillsides it evolved on. Rosemary isn't a delicate herb. It evolved on rocky limestone hillsides in Spain, Greece, and North Africa, some of the harshest growing environments in the plant world. The native soil there holds between 15 and 30% moisture. Compare that to your premium herb mix, 60 to 80%. A 2025 study published in Hort Science put rosemary through serious drought stress. Soil moisture dropped to just 20%. The plant lost 66% of its leaf mass. But it survived. And it adapted by increasing the tiny hairs on its leaves that help it hold water. This is a plant built to be forgotten. Think of rosemary like a tough old gardener who's been working outside for 40 years. Put them in a spa with heated floors and daily massages, and they'd be miserable. Rosemary wants a little rough. That's where it thrives. Exactly what my grandmother was telling me all along. There's one more thing worth seeing. When researchers compared clay pots and plastic pots side by side, the leaf surface temperature in the plastic pot ran 2.4 degrees Celsius higher because plastic doesn't breathe through its walls. Clay is porous. The sides of the pot actually wick moisture away and cool the root zone. So cheap backyard dirt and the clay pot outperform premium mix because they mimic what rosemary evolved in. Less water retention, more airflow, cooler roots. Now you know why. Here's what to do about it. 5 techniques, each with one number you can measure. 5 techniques. All of them involve doing less than you're probably doing now. Let's go. Technique 1. The soil mix. 3 parts coarse sand or grit, 2 parts perlite or pumice, 3 parts native soil from your yard, not bagged garden soil, and 1 part compost, no more than 30%. That ratio keeps air-filled porosity above 20%. Water runs through in under 10 seconds. Your rosemary roots can breathe. Technique 2. Clay pot only. Unglazed terracotta. Not plastic, not glazed ceramic. The wall itself wicks away excess moisture and keeps the root zone cooler. You can see it work. Put a drop of water on a dry clay pot wall and watch it absorb in seconds. Technique 3. Bone dry, then soak. Only water when the soil is completely dry. Lift the pot. If it's heavy, put it down and walk away. If it feels light and the top 2 inches are dry to your second knuckle, then water it thoroughly until it drains from the bottom. In summer, every 3 to 5 days. In winter, maybe every 2 weeks. Lift the pot. Let the plant tell you. My grandmother never owned a moisture meter. She just picked up the pot. That was her whole system. Technique 4. Only prune in spring or early summer, and never cut more than 1/3 of the green growth in one session. Cut only where the stem has turned woody, but still has green leaves above the cut. Avoid pruning in late summer or fall. Any new growth won't harden before the first frost. Before we mix Technique 5, a non-negotiable safety note. According to the National Pet Safety Database, rosemary is non-toxic to dogs, cats, and horses. The paste I'm about to show you uses ground culinary cinnamon, Ceylon variety, sunflower oil, and beeswax. All ingredients recognized as safe by federal food regulators. My grandkids can play in the garden right after I use this. But, and this is important, never swap ground cinnamon for cinnamon essential oil. The oil is too concentrated and can be toxic to cats. They process it differently than we do. We keep it simple. We keep it safe. Ground powder only. Technique 5. The pruning paste. Here's the recipe. 40 milliliters of sunflower oil. That's about 3 tablespoons. 5 grams of beeswax. Melt it with the oil in a double boiler. Let it cool slightly, then stir in 1 teaspoon of ground Ceylon cinnamon. Dab a small amount on each pruning cut with a cotton swab. Research suggests the cinnamaldehyde in cinnamon may help inhibit the molds that attack open wounds on woody plants. 1 batch, a full year. 3 mistakes I see most often. 1. Using any commercial herb mix with peat as the base. Switch to the soil recipe from Technique 1. 2. Watering on a fixed schedule instead of lifting the pot first. Feel the weight, not the calendar. 3. Substituting cinnamon essential oil in the paste. Use the ground powder only. That's it. 1 rosemary plant, 3 years of growth. Based on typical US supermarket pricing, around $3 to $4 per small bunch, used 12 to 15 times a year, that's roughly $120 to $180 of fresh rosemary from 1 $3 plant. And your neighbor? They'll stop buying theirs at the store once they see yours. Let's recap. Premium peat-based herb mix drowns rosemary roots by cutting off oxygen, not from overwatering, but from suffocation. That's the real mechanism. Rosemary evolved on rocky Mediterranean hillsides in soil that holds far less moisture than any premium herb mix. It wants stress, not comfort. And 5 do less techniques. The soil mix, the clay pot, bone-dry watering, smart pruning, and the cinnamon paste keep 1 plant alive and productive for 3 or more years for under $10 total. So yes, cheap, rough backyard dirt really does keep rosemary alive longer than a $15 premium mix. Because it mimics the Mediterranean. Less water, less organic matter, more minerals. The lazy gardener's way. Here's what I want you to do right now. Walk over to your rosemary pot and pick it up. If it's heavy, put it down. That's rule 1. The lazy fix. If you don't have a plant yet, this week grab a $3 rosemary from the grocery store, a $2 clay pot from a thrift shop, and a small bag of coarse sand. You're in business for under $10, and that plant can feed your kitchen for the next 3 years. Quick reminder, rosemary and ground cinnamon are both safe around pets when used as shown here. Never use cinnamon essential oil. The concentrated oil is not safe for cats. Every garden is a little different, so results may vary with your sunlight and climate. Now that your rosemary is safe, let's talk about the one soil amendment you should never buy. I'll show you how to make it for free from your kitchen scraps. Watch that one next. Happy gardening!